Okay, I'll hold for the second round. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Mr. Ice. Mr. Welch.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Cooney, you indicated in your statement that your loyalty was to the President who appointed you, correct?
Correct.
You also indicated that your responsibility was to align executive branch reports with administration policy, correct?
Correct.
And the administration had a pretty clear energy policy during the time of the ongoing energy crisis, which included recovery and the search for new oil and petroleum products, correct?
It included that, and there were many other elements.
Well, it included supporting drilling in the Arctic National Wildlife Reserve, correct?
It did. It included extending.
It included drilling in offshore, correct?
I don't recall specifically.
It included maintaining royalty relief for the oil companies for the recovery of Gulf oil, even as the price of oil increased over $60 a barrel.
I don't recall that that was an element of the national energy policy.
It included supporting tax breaks that Congress gave the oil industry at a time when they had $125 billion in profits, correct?
Congressman, I can say that later in my years in the administration, we opposed oil and tax incentives for oil and gas exploration.
Let's get real here, Mr. Cooney. Let's get real. ANWR, offshore drilling, tax breaks, all advocated publicly, aggressively by the Bush administration, passed by a Republican Congress. Yes or no? Is that a hard question?
That was
it is because when you talk about tax breaks, you're talking about tax breaks that have been in law for a long time, or something since then. I'm wondering what.
We'll let the witness answer. You'll have your chance, my good friend.
Gentleman controls the time.
There were many elements of the policy: the promotion of nuclear energy, the increase in fuel economy standards for light trucks, a mandate for renewable fuels in the sale of transportation fuels for ethanol, which was enacted in 2005. There were many elements to the policy that were not necessarily to the advantage of the oil and gas industry, which were administration policies.
Let's make this simple. Did that policy of the Bush administration, and you supported the President in his policies, include promoting drilling in ANWR?
Yes, Congressman.
All right. Did it include support for tax breaks that were passed by Congress for the oil industry?
I don't recall that being an element.
Let's ask a few specific questions here. You reviewed the CEQ, and this document is the Strategic Plan for the Climate Change Science Program. It was issued in 2003. The committee has multiple drafts. You've seen them. You've been asked about them in your deposition. And in fact, at your deposition, you acknowledged that this was edited at least 5 times: on October 28, 2002, May 30, 2003, June 2, 2003, and June 16, 2003, and once before the final version was released. Is that correct? Yes or no?
That sounds correct.
And when we examined your edits, we found a large number of changes that very clearly had the effect of emphasizing or exaggerating the level of uncertainty surrounding global warming science. In your first round of edits, there were 47 edits that introduced additional uncertainty. In the second round, you made 28 edits that made global warming seem less certain. And in your third round of edits, you made 106 changes that introduced additional uncertainty. That's a total of 181 edits. I want to ask you about these edits. Take a look at Exhibit C. You're ready for this. When the draft arrived on your desk, lines 40 to 42 read, quote, "Recent warming has been linked to longer growing seasons, grass species decline, changes in aquatic diversity, and coral bleaching." You inserted the words "indicated as potentially," introducing a greater level of uncertainty into that report. Right or wrong?
Right. I inserted those words.
And I assume that you referred to some scientific support for introducing this change that contradicted the report of the scientist. Yes or no?
Not a report of the scientist.
Here's
a
question.
Budget report.
Simple question. You made a change. You had a basis for the change. My question is this. What was the basis of your change?
It was the National Academy of Sciences June 2001 report.
And tell us specifically in that report you're now referring to where the National Academy said potentially.
Well, the National Academy identified the uncertainties associated with regional outcomes of climate change as one of the fundamental scientific questions that remained and needed to be studied.
My question's simple, important question. You made a change. You overruled the written report of a scientist in your department.
I didn't overrule it. It may not have been
Where specifically
accepted.
did you find support to authorize an important scientific conclusion on the issue of climate change?
On page 19 of the report, it states, on a regional scale and in the longer term, there is much more uncertainty. At page 21 of the National Academy of Sciences report, it says, whereas all models project global warming and global increases in precipitation, the sign of precipitation varies among models for regions. The range of model sensitivities and the challenge of projecting the sign of precipitation changes for regions represents a substantial limitation in assessing climate impacts.
Dr. Hansen, does this make the slightest bit of sense?
I think the connection between warming and longer growing seasons is very straightforward, and I don't see the need for this sort of application.
Thank you. Please turn to Exhibit D, Mr. Cooney. When you received the June 5, 2003 draft, page 294 read, climate modeling capabilities have improved dramatically and can be expected to continue to do so. As a result, scientists are now able to model Earth system processes and the coupling of those processes on a regional and global scale with increasing precision and reliability. The CEQ completely deleted these sentences, right?
At which line? I'm sorry, Congressman.
Page 294.
Yes, Congressman.
All right. Did you refer to some scientific evidence upon which you would delete the scientific conclusions that were presented by scientists?
I did, Congressman. At page 15 of the National Academy of Sciences report, it says, however, climate models are imperfect. Their simulation skill is limited by uncertainties in their formulation, the limited size of their calculation, and the difficulty of interpreting their answers that exhibit almost as much complexity as in nature. Most importantly, at the end of the National Academy of Sciences report, it says that now a major limitation of model forecasts for use around the world is the paucity of data available to evaluate the ability of coupled models to simulate important aspects of climate change. In addition, the observing system available today is a composite of observations that neither provide the information nor the continuity in data to support measurements of climate variability. Therefore, above all, it is essential to ensure the existence of long-term observing systems that provides a more definitive observational foundation to evaluate decadal and century scale variability and change.
You heard Dr. Hansen just a moment ago
Yes.
when he said that scientists are different than lawyers.
Yes.
Lawyers find every single possible nuance to create doubt and uncertainty. Here's the question, all right? What you deleted was a straightforward statement that said climate modeling capabilities have improved dramatically. You have now just read a statement that says they're not perfect, and you have now edited that report to undercut the conclusion on climate warming that was reached by our scientists. Yes or no?
No, Congressman, I didn't edit the report. I made recommendations within an established interagency review process, and I believed at the time that I made them that I had a foundation for my comments based in the National Academy of Sciences. I'm not being lawyerly, I am reading the direct scientific quotations.
And it was admirable loyalty to the person who had appointed you to a political position. Here's my